Mil veces, primo.
Bro, are you watching this in Spanish? I'm learning Spanish. You know that already. Okay, but how you gonna learn just by watching? Shouldn't you be doing something else to learn how to like speak and take notes or something at least? I'm listening so I can like hear what they're saying, you know? Okay, ¿por qué tú aprendiste a decir entonces? Eh, there's two cousins, they're on a farm talking. No eso. ¿Qué tú aprendiste a decir? What did you learn to say? Él dijo primo. Primo es como a cousin, right? I love what you're doing. I don't want to knock what you're doing. You know, keep putting on Spanish content. But let's go to Ricky from Bilingue Blogs to learn how to use short films in order to speak Spanish. Okay, está bien conmigo. Yo quiero hablar mejor. Pero quiero también ver movies, you know? Dale, tú sabes. Vamos allá. ¿Qué lo que mi gente? Yo soy Ricky de Bilingue Blogs, and today I'm going to be giving you 5 ways to use cortometrajes, short films, to get better at speaking Spanish or whatever language you are learning. This is going to start from the least effective to the most effective. They're all effective, so stay tuned for the whole video. So first, we should start by talking about what is un cortometraje. Un cortometraje is how we say in Spanish, short film, and a short film is just a film that's like less than half an hour. Typically, when I refer to it, I'm talking about like 15 minutes or less. How do you find these? So you guys know that I'm really big on talking about different variations of Spanish, different accents, well, cortometrajes. If you go on YouTube, you can type in cortometraje mexicano, cortometraje colombiano, cortometraje dominicano, and then you come up with a lot of different results. If you don't care about the accent, but you like certain genres, you can type in cortometraje de acción, cortometraje de comedia. You know, different types of things that you're interested in. So that way you can find short films to practice with. I mentioned this before actually in one of my videos talking about how I study languages on a busy schedule. So if you're a busy person, cortometrajes are way better than a 2-hour movie because you can do them at any time, you know, take a break from work, put it on. So that's what a cortometraje is, and that's how you find them. Now let's get into how do we use them to learn to speak Spanish. So number 5 would be to shadow. Some people, they don't care about having an accent. I was one of the people that did care about having an accent. I didn't want a gringo accent. Yo no quiero hablar así cuando hablo español. And one way that I made sure that that didn't happen was to shadow. All right, so all that we're doing when we're shadowing is just copying what people are saying on whatever show we're watching or whatever audio we're watching. So we're gonna play it a little bit, and then we're gonna pause it and repeat it just like them. That's gonna help you to get a sharper accent, a more native sounding accent, which is what you're looking for, correct? So, you know, that'll be my advice to you. Method number 4 would be to actually, you know, pause your video again and write down phrases and words that you would use. It's very likely that it's a common phrase in that accent or that version of Spanish. So write that down, look it up, and then you can have that to study from later, and you can add that to your natural way of speaking by putting it into practice, which is very important to do after you watch the short film. For me, a lot of the phrases that I have learned that I use in my everyday speech, like tato, que lo que, tú tá claro, or tú tá cloro. You know, these are things that I've heard from watching Dominican shows. I heard them so many times that I had to look them up, see what they mean, and now they're part of my vernacular. They're part of the way that I speak. Now, the best way to learn phrases and words would be through actual conversation with people, but you know, people are not always available, so that's why we have these short films to use. So use them to your advantage. Don't just sit there blankly staring at the cortometraje. Remember, this is not for pure entertainment. It should be fun, it should be entertaining, it should be something that you like. However, remember that you are doing this to learn, so you should be taking notes. You should be learning things that you can use to speak Spanish, not just to listen. Listening is good, but you want to be able to produce your own sentences, correct? So put this into practice. On to number 3. Now from this level, we're getting into the part that are going to involve you more and more into the cortometraje. So this is something that's really fun for me. So number 3 would be to describe things that you see on the screen. Uno de ellos lleva un encapuchado blanco y rojo y negro. Tiene un reloj, unos pantalones rojos. El otro tiene un sombrero marrón claro con una camiseta blanca. Many people struggle with feminine, masculine, singular, plural. It's called la concordancia in español, you know, agreement. Instead of saying las flores rojas, they may say las flores rojo. And we can't say that in Spanish, right? So this will be a good way to put that into practice, to constantly be using your adjectives, you know, masculine, singular, feminine, plural, adjectives to describe your scenery. This is just a great way to put that into practice because this is learned through application. We can read as many books as we want, but if we don't apply this in real life, in real time, you know, out of our mouths, then we're gonna keep struggling with it. But the more you do it, the better you get. This means that you're gonna be describing what people are wearing. You're gonna describe what people look like. You're gonna be describing the scenery. You know, what's it look like outside? Where are they? You know, you wanna be as descriptive as possible when you do this, because remember, the goal is for you to learn to speak Spanish. You should already have some Spanish under your belt. So this is to help you apply the Spanish that you've learned and to do it effectively, because we use it all the time when we're speaking to people. We're always describing something, even if we don't want to. We're like, oh, pásame esa vaina roja. You know, I can't just say pásame esa vaina. Like, I want to give you some description to it. So we use it all the time. So get used to it and put it into practice with los cortometrajes. ¿Tú me entiendes? All right, number 2 is going to get you even more involved. Number 2 would be to talk about what you would do in the situation. So now you're putting yourself into the actual cortometraje.
Yo sé que le falló mucho. Y por eso quiero que usted no me mueva a ciudad.
Ay, no. Si yo fuera él, no. Yo me quedaría en mi granja, en el campo. No confiaría en él porque yo sé que es un tigre de la calle, tú sabes. No. Pero yo sé que mi hermano mayor lo acompañaría para... You're going to talk about what you would do, how you would respond. And not just yourself. How would your friend respond? How would your mom respond? How would your siblings respond? You know, you want to experiment with talking about different people, because we're not always going to be talking about ourselves. Unless you just like that, unless you just love yourself that much. But I think it's good to be a well-rounded Spanish speaker. So I want to encourage you to be inclusive. You know, talk about different people. Talk about more than one person. You know, my brother and my sister would have done this. You know, that's a good way to put it into practice as well. You'll be surprised. It's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning because you're not used to it. You're probably just used to just staring at the screen and listening, right? But no, you got to get more involved, and that's what's going to help you to become a better speaker. Ya tú sabes. So number 1, this way is by far the best way to use a cortometraje because it tests many different levels, right? So you can be the narrator and talk about what is happening, you know, in real time. Hay un hombre con su cigarrillo, con sus pantalones rojos y está caminando hacia otro hombre. Ah, parece que son primos. Y ahora están hablando. Y él quiere saber si va a acercarse a él o qué. Y el primo de la ciudad parece que está hablando de su estilo, de su flow. Y ahora acaba de saltar un poquito para demostrar su flow, no sé por qué. Parece que es porque tiene los Jordans. Y el otro primo del campo está llevando unas botas de Nike. After like a minute of playing the cortometraje, you can stop it and talk about what happened in the past. You know, depends on what you want to work on. You can use any verb tense to talk about the cortometraje. I think that's so effective, that's so important, because you know, sometimes we have weaknesses in certain areas. I think a lot of people have the weakness of telling stories in the past. But isn't that what we want to do? Isn't that like a major part of communicating with other people, talking about, yo, I saw this fight today and this dude was blah, 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 and this and that, like, right? Don't you want to be able to do that in Spanish? Well, if you do that in a cortometraje, you put that into practice often with cortometrajes, it's going to prepare you for those real conversations when you want to tell something that just happened before you got to the party, right? So practice that. But not only verb tenses, you can practice different skills. Like, you know, if you see a thing being passed around, you can talk about that thing using the direct object pronouns, you know. Yo veo una lámpara y la mujer la tiene en la mano y después se la pasa a su amiga. You know, things like that. Are people talking to each other? You can recount what they said back and forth to each other. Ella le dijo bla bla bla, pero la otra mujer le respondió tal y tal cosa. Tú sabes. So you can use, you know, le, les, me, te, you know, those type of indirect object pronouns to describe what was going on in between the two people or more people. It's by far one of the best ways because you're using different tenses to, you know, just talk about what's going on or what happened, and that's what we do. That's what conversation is. We talk about, you know, what's going on or what happened or what we would do or what somebody should do, you know, different things. So this is a good way to put all of those elements together. If you know you have a little bit of time, you don't really have anybody to talk to at the moment, put on a cortometraje and put these 5 things into use. If you like this video, I need you to share it, like get the word out. Also give it a thumbs up, but sharing it is way more important. Comment below with how you use short films to learn whatever language you're learning. And also subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, yo, ¿qué tú estás esperando? I see a lot of you guys are not subscribed. And that's the problem. We're trying to, first of all, I'm trying to get to 100,000, so let's go. Come on, subscribe. Ya tú sabes qué es lo que es. Hasta aquí el video de hoy y nos fuimos.